Hi, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. We want to welcome you to the second Binational Trade Webinar Series with the focus on logistics. So this is a binational collaborative effort between Forefront ED, Greater Yuma Economic Development Corporation, OPRO de San Luis Rio Colorado, and Greater Yuma Port Authority. My name is Bina George, and I serve as the Executive Director for the Greater Yuma Port Authority and your friendly host for today. Please note that there will be a Q&A post the presentation. Obviously we're doing this to highlight our mega regions assets, and today it is my privilege to be able to introduce Gladys Brown, Airport Director for the Yuma International Airport. So Ms. Brown's primary function is to operate the airport in compliance with applicable FAA regulations and state law, as well as maintain a positive relationship with Marine Corps Air Station Yuma and promote commercial air services and general aviation in a safe and secure manner, amongst a whole other laundry list of responsibilities. So Gladys, welcome. We sincerely appreciate you sharing your time and your knowledge with us. And we're excited to learn more about the Yuma International Airport. So with that, welcome everybody. Welcome Gladys, and the floor is yours.
Perfect. Well, I'm excited, and I'm going to make sure everybody can see it here. So first of all, again, thank you for having me, everybody who's able to get onto the call today too. Very, very privileged to be here today, and also to share with you a little bit of a snapshot about what we do, and then answer questions in the end. Just really quick for those who are unaware, the Yuma County Airport Authority actually has two airfields. One here in the city of Yuma called Yuma International Airport, and then we have one in the city of San Luis, which is Raleigh Airfield. Overall, we're an airport authority, so very different than a city or county ran airport or what is called a joint venture. So what I tell people is we're not a Sky Harbor, Phoenix Sky Harbor, that's run by a municipality, and we're also not a joint venture, which is a Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport that a lot of folks fly in and out of too. So we're kind of very similar to the Tucson structure. So we are independent, we're a public agency. We're a nonprofit corporation. And again, as you can see, we don't have any taxes that we receive. A lot of it is from our entitlements or funding that we go out and seek, or grants that are out there. We have about 110 home-based aircraft that are here at the International Airport. And then we have Raleigh Airfield, which does not have any home-based aircraft and is funded through the state system. And primarily we're looking for growth in that development, and we'll talk about that in the end. And that is actually land that's leased by the Bureau of Reclamation, and then through the county, we go and we oversee it. And same thing here at the airport, our land is actually owned by the county, and then the authority works as the independent agency that oversees it as a sponsor. We do have board members. They're all community leaders, whether they're retired or they're currently in positions throughout the community. You can see that those are the 11 in which run and give direction to the airport director. They're the only person they hire for the authority is myself, and then I employ our staff. And our staff is a nice, strong, mighty group of 21. And so we control about 420 acres here at Yuma International and 620 acres over at Raleigh Airfield in the city of San Luis. We do have missions and strategies here. So of course, as you can see, our mission today is really to focus and serve the greater Yuma, all of the county, including our partnerships with other counties that we abut against, like Imperial Valley. Of course, just an oversight, our strategy, of course, is to grow the aviation related business, to look at the community growth by partnering with others throughout the community, to market the airport in the best way that we can, and then also the international status. So for many, they say, well, you don't have commercial flights internationally, but what we're able to do is we actually clear customs, so make it a little bit easier, not so congested. Folks pick us and Calexico a lot of the times as they go and transit into California versus trying to clear out of a LAX or even some of the Orange and Long Beach airports. Our overall grant funding, as you can see, based on enplanements, that's planes coming in and out, or people coming in and out on commercial liners, we get about 1.1 million that we have to use for very job specific infrastructure improvement or rehabilitation. And then we have to match that with different funds, whether it's from the state funding or through a restricted fund that we have through passenger facility charges. We try to go and we match those grants that we receive from the FAA. We have in the past worked with the EDA, the Economic Development Administration, as well as the Arizona Commerce Administration, our authority, in order to build up some of our property, whether here at Yuma International or over at Raleigh Airfield. So airfield properties and the airport properties. We're going to start with Yuma International, and then we're going to go over into Raleigh Airfield. So a lot of people just only see the terminal, or for many, all they see is the air station, which is operated and owned by the Department of Defense or the Department of the Navy. And a lot of folks see a lot of the military aircraft flying in and out. But on our portion, you actually see more of the civilian operation, whether it's research and development, general aviation, private commercial users that are more independent or chartered, or even for many that they see in the wintertime, it's a lot of our agriculture and the leadership and the different folks that they have flying in and out between Salinas and Monterey to go and perform their duties here or oversee their facilities. In addition to that, on the airport, we have larger aircraft operations that happen more in the southwest portion, which is called our Defense Contractors Complex. And down there, you'll see Customs Border Protection operate their Air Marine Division. You're going to see FedEx bring in freight that they have, very small freight on the caravans. And then you also see some of our main commercial users that operate out of the Joe Foss. And some of them are short-term tenant users, and they have partnerships with the Yuma Proving Ground. Others, too, sometimes come here so that they can do some mission training over with the air station. A lot of the times, you also see our larger freight operators that are doing their testing for new aircraft that they're going to bring into the market, like Boeing. So this is just an overview. Most of the time here on the northern portion, you're going to see commercial operation, which is our commercial air service carriers. Then as you go into the westerly portion of our airfield, you're going to notice that you have commercial users, business on the airport, or general aviation, and that's what that GA stands for. When you get down into the southwest portion, that's the Defense Contractors Complex, and you're going to see the larger wide body planes that we have to accommodate that go and operate there. It's a little bit easier. They don't have to worry too much about the smaller aircraft. And it also, that's our big business development side that you'll see into the future of this presentation. So in the southwest portion is our best opportunity for growth. So when we look at business development, we have to highlight what our region can bring in, but also what do we have available for folks to make it attractive? And a lot of the times it's our community, it's our partnership, it's the logistic relationship between us and Mexico. It's the trucking, it's the rail. The biggest thing too, a lot of the times you'll see too, and this is what makes it attractive in California, is their ability into integrating that maritime portion of it too. So a lot of the times that's the kind of the trifecta that you'll see with airports, is if they can have land, air, rail, and sea. Those are the four other components. So the three components in conjunction with the airport that make you very attractive on the multimodal side. So for us, one of the things that we try to do is we try to add value as we move forward. So inside the DCC, there's a lot of operation that goes on there, but the biggest thing is our infrastructure because of our co-location and being one of the only one in the United States to be co-located with the Marine Corps. It's one of those things that our users enjoy and appreciate that level of security that they're going to get when they come here. We also have one of the top fixed base operators that provide fuel and services, which is called Millionaire Yuma. They own 13 other locations throughout the United States, and they're one of the premier, if not one of the top fixed base operators for fueling operations. So a lot of the times we're going to focus on the business development. This is what makes it attractive for those who are on the call. When you have clients or business that you're looking for, we don't only have aeronautical land for use. We also have non-aeronautical land for use in which we can provide land leases and develop those for non-aeronautical uses outside of the fences, not tying into the airfield. Right now we focus a lot on the airfield, but in the bottom right hand, you'll see that we have other property for development in which we currently use today for agriculture. But on the airfield itself, it's all zone light and heavy industrial. And there's more expansion for ramps and hangar development. So all of these are kind of shot from the sky as you look in that southwest portion of the airfield. What we try to do in the past is we've developed a couple of kind of spec hangars for folks to walk through. This was actually funded through the Economic Development Administration back during the Obama timeframe when they were trying to look at options and ways to have areas or places in which you can employ or have multiple tenants. We're one of the few airports, if not one of the only airports on the West Coast that actually qualified for the grant, and we did have to apply for it several times. It's the ability to operate two different types of businesses inside of one hangar. It's got space in which is shared, and then they have isolated areas, including all access control to be isolated so that if there are two operators, they can intermingle into each other's hangar bays. It also has very secured infrastructure for their IT services too. And the other one we have is a private development. So for those who are wondering, can I develop on the airfield for aeronautical use? The answer is yes. There's a standard in which we meet, but there also is what type of operation happens. So this is actually owned and installed and built by Freeman Holdings, which is also the owner of Millionaire. They were going to build this in California, but with all of the different issues and what they would have had to do to build it there, they actually trucked it from Victorville down to Yuma, and we were able to work with the city of Yuma to have it built here. Since then, they contracted out to different users that they have and provide services to. We don't control it. We just only provide the land lease for it. And then we also ensure that they meet and are in compliance with our safety and regulations on the airfield. The nice thing about the Fedex facility, again, it is actually used by FedEx or Federal Express. However, the property itself has an independent developer that develops throughout the nation for these FedEx facilities. And they actually own it, they lease it out to FedEx, and they bring in their caravans. This is also located in that southwest portion, easy access on. And then what we do is we really completely isolate the facility so that we ensure that our security is met as well as their own. Other clients that you can see there, of course, is Customs and Border Protection. They have two facilities there that are all in one. So the Imperial branch as well as the Yuma sector are both inside of this facility. They also have a maintenance and a storage additionally to their administration portion of it, which is located there. Of course, we have other types of users. We have military international users. Our international military come here. We primarily see the Belgians, but a lot of the times we've seen Canadians in the Royal Air Force. So different types of users come here. One of these aircraft are actually the Singapore helicopters that came in too. So again, the partnerships that we have with other folks outside of just the Marine Corps happens here as well. And then aerospace manufacturers. Of course, we would love to get a big user like this. A lot of the times they come down here for our ideal location, and at sea level is for some of their testing and hot weather. I tell people you can't get anything better than this in Yuma. Clear skies, no ceiling, great weather because they're testing for hot weather, but also they have enough space for them to take off and land and safely do their on-ground testing for all of the different platforms that they may be looking at bringing into the field. At one time, we did host a lot of the 767, 747. Today, we're seeing more of the 777 and the 737 line with Boeing, but we are one of their locations in which they look at when they do all their research or testing, especially, and not just only on their hot weather portion of it, but also on their instrumentation. We do have capabilities that we offer here on station or at the airport, which is our information technology side. So we realize that when you guys bring potential developers or clients, that we want to show them that we're able to provide a full service, whether it's the information technology side or facility maintenance, or if they need opportunity to not just develop the land, but also the hangar themselves, we can also offer those services with our team that we have today. And again, I mentioned our Millionaire, our fixed base operator. And then also, as you can see, all of the different airport services from utility management, custodial, phone, machines, whether it's copying machine, printer support, security, or 24-hour monitoring. Our team pretty much can do it all in-house for you if that's what our client prefers. So for everybody on the call, I think the biggest thing is about the development that we have and the opportunity we have into the future. So I'm going to show you a couple of scenarios and cases in which we have partnered up with GYEDC, or we've looked at some of our opportunity, even from our Mexico partnerships, and showing them the opportunity to build hangars or to meet their clients' needs here in the United States and how that partnership can work. Some of these I can tell you are from previous site selectors that are looking for sites. So they're just great examples for us to say, what can we provide? One of the things that I want everybody, and hopefully everyone here is very proud of our ability to talk about the Yuma economy, to look at the different types of businesses that make us attractive, and also the successful businesses that exist today within a 60-mile radius. So of course we highlight manufacturing, agribusiness, and tourism, not just tourism in the sense of, sightseeing, but also the fact that we have that medical tourism piece of it in which attracts people to come here. So we've got great recreational pieces. We've got great tie-in with the medical side. We have excellent agribusiness that happens here, and then also the manufacturing that goes on throughout this region, including over with our partners in Mexico. So site information, the biggest development that we have for opportunity is down in that Southwest region. We have about 120 acres, which can be developed. And then you can see that there's 80 acres there located off of Avenue A and between 4th Ave Extension and 40th Street, and which is developed for non-aeronautical use if necessary. Prime location, great, easy access in and out, and also somewhat equidistant between within the city and also to our partners across the way. So a big thing that we always say is don't just always focus on the aeronautical side of the house. Understand that we're also open to non-aeronautical use, which is your industrial business application. We have the ability for those who are looking at freight or looking at transport. What does it look like on the airport side? So one, we can take any aircraft of any size. We have the ability to help develop additional apron space, and then also work with a contractor or company to develop hangars themselves to meet the specific needs of the client, which you'll see. All of this is layout as far as what we just went over: Customs Border Protection, Federal Express, if you've been down in this area off of 40th Street and Avenue A. We own 2 hangars, the Joe Foss and the Pappy Boeington, and the millionaire owns Amelia Earhart. We have a large area for aircraft storage, run up and testing, and then also our ingress and egress of 2 taxiways to the main runway. Big picture looking forward when folks come in and out. This is one of the things that we talk to about positioning of the new build. A new build will primarily happen over to your left, which is that larger orange area. And then everything around it is complementary. I always say we try to make sure things are compatible here. So we don't want something that's going to be intrusive or be able to impede a mission, or most definitely isn't compatible with our usage, even our partnership over on the other side of the air station. So example one, say we have a potential client with a retrofit. They want to do a retrofit for aircraft, whatever size may be possible. This is what we typically look at. You would bring to us some form of criteria or background, what your ultimate build out would look like, and can we accommodate that site? So we look at what all goes into that operation. This site retrofit, or this aircraft retrofit, required a warehouse for just-in-time material. They required a weight facility for as they go through and they have components of that aircraft in which they needed to, an assembly facility, run stations to go through engine checks, and then also a paint facility. They did also require a facility noise abatement. So it's a hush house so that they can go and do additional testing. And then they required some flight line support and facility build out for their offices, which we can connect into existing offices. In addition to that, what they wanted to see were the utilities that come in and out and their ability to not be too well seen. They wanted to be able to run their operation, get it done, and then also could we fund it privately? So this build out here that you see is between $35 and $45 million, and they wanted it built in around 2 years. Another one we had was an aircraft manufacturer, but what they were really looking at is a test site so that they can test the platform as they delivered their aircraft. They needed to land lease the facility to build out, which we're able to do. They wanted to see if they had additional expansion, which we're able to do as well. So we can do build outs in multiple sections. We can provide them multiple layouts. And then we also can show them a phasing plan as their business grew and what that looks like, and also build it into the phasing plans. Then also what type of aircraft can fit in and out. We try to depict that in all of the different exhibits that we provide to them as we place in our bid or our site for consideration. We also go and try to design some form of facility. Obviously, at one time, we were hoping that Boeing, as they looked in the Northwest and saw some weather conditions and issues, that they would consider our site as something that would be advantageous for them to start another section of their company here. And again, this was a few years ago, probably about almost 10 years ago when they were looking at that, or that we were hoping that they would look at us more. And then also a full build out if we were to take that non-aeronautical site and then tie it into the airfield for some form of manufacturing opportunity on build out. So we try to depict and render those type of images to help our clients see what it can look like into the future. So our example 3 that we're looking at is an aircraft design and manufacturer. So this company was looking at designing and manufacturing. What we try to do is give them one large facility and then showing them where that non-aeronautical use by Avenue A and 4th Ave extension was, how they can build their site into the future. So initially starting off with the multiple warehouse concept and their ability to assemble what they needed to inside of one facility. And then also an apron expansion that you see here right forward of the plane. We then made sure that they can see the phasing that happens, where we first developed those 2-phase ramps and future ramps, and then also what it would look like based on the specifications that they provided to our team, how we can go and expand their company into the future, including what are we going to look at immediately, and then also giving them a good ballpark estimate what that cost would be. Cost to lease the land, cost for us to not just lease, but also build, and then also what commitment it would look like into the future. You can see we try to highlight all of the different areas in which they can benefit from it, which is their testing over at the blast reflector, or if it's even office build out just to the north of the existing facilities we have, which are the Joe Foss and CBPs. So with that, the other airfield, I know we'll have a lot of questions. That was kind of like my speed dating with Gladys on business development at the airport. We have a very unique situation in which we have a smaller airfield in the city of San Luis. Close proximity, we always tell folks when you're flying, you're about 3.4 miles from the border in the air. You're also in the flight path of some of the best pilots in the world, in the nation, with our fighter units that are over here at the air station. So you're right underneath that flight path over at Raleigh Airfield. It is a very, very isolated airfield, great for future development. I would say would handle on the smaller scale of aircraft in what we classify as design group 1 right now, 12.5 and under. That's 12,500 pounds and under. Great for caravanning too, because of the shorter length of the runway. It is located out in the middle of a field. As you can see, I say section 35. But as you go through, I always tell folks, if you wanted to go to the airfield, it is completely fenced in. It is access controlled. It does have a hangar on there as well as apron space. Great spot today where pilots do touch and goes. And also helicopter operators do some of their mission training out there. We have a groundskeeper that's out there that helps us not just maintain it, but keep it secure. And so we always have someone out there that's able to help, including our operations personnel, which is 24/7 as well. In the past, we've used all the improvements for that field itself through ADOT grants through the Arizona Department of Transportation. We've also been able to get some funding through the Arizona Commerce Authority during a time where they focused on aerospace and defense, and then also the investments that the airport themselves have made. Today, we do not have any home-based aircraft there. We have a license permit that we're currently working on getting revised, so we have the amount of years to do more development. Again, typically for general aviation pilots and flight instruction. The runway itself is 2,800 feet, and then the hangar that's located there is about 2,500 square feet of hangar, and it is, again, access controlled. From the air, when you go by there's a frequency, so you always never forget what you need to call into. It is uncontrolled. Again, if you need to get out there, there's one of those things you have to coordinate with our team. You can land, but you can't necessarily get out. You'd have to call operations or meet with our groundskeeper that's out there. Again, a great airfield. We're looking at that throughput and what it looks like into the future for any type of development that can happen or any trucking routes that can happen. And then also maybe it be, whether it be an executive jet center for the city of San Luis as their business picks up and that our partnerships continue over in Mexico, or if it's a great way for folks to hop in between and not have to necessarily be at Yuma International. I can tell you too, in between Raleigh Airfield and Yuma International Airport, there is another airport that's located. It does have a paved runway, and it's called Summerton Airport, run by Eric Salser. And it is a private airport for public use. And he is a phenomenal airport manager, very easy to talk with. And typically what you see with him is kind of some of your agriculture, recreational users. Banner pullers go out of Eric's airport just because it's a little bit harder out of here. So we've got 3 airfields that you could always select from. One Raleigh Airfield, one our partnership with Summerton Airport, and then of course Yuma International. With that, I know we're going to answer, I see there's probably some questions and that folks may have, but today, just so you know, we support every type of operator, business development, research, the Department of Defense and defense contractors that support our service members. We also look at research testing, operational flight line availability, and trying to be attractive. We do make continual investments, not just in the defense contractors complex, but over at Raleigh Airfield, as well as throughout our general aviation and commercial airline operations here. We try to do everything that's compatible with the Department of Defense and government environment. So we do treat it very secure because we never want to jeopardize any of the security measures and requirements over on the air station side over at Yuma International. We do support our infrastructure, and we have supporting infrastructure. We're always doing whatever we can to make sure our clients have the best that they need to operate their business. We have an excellent, phenomenal, first-class service provider for the fixed base operations and service for fueling as well as ground service. We do provide logistical support. So depending on what the client needs, we'll do everything that we can to make sure that they have all package, all wrapped in one, all the way down to helping coordinate their car rentals and hotels if we needed to. And we are open 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for folks that operate a business. So there's no restriction on operation into the future on that business development. So with that, everybody does have my information right there. I always tell folks, if you can, just remember, if you can fly local, always do that. And if there's anything that I can do, you're always welcome to stop me and ask questions. I know many of you have, but also I'll kind of turn it over with Buna and we can answer some of those questions that folks may be wondering about or would like me to elaborate.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Gladys. That was drinking out of a water hose, you know, as far as all the information. We did have a question that came in from Mr. Glenn Williamson himself. He's the CEO, founder of the Canadian Arizona Business Council and honorary consul from Canada up in Phoenix. And he is asking, Gladys, do you see more Canadians flying down or driving?
So, okay, so we're gonna address two, big elephants in the room. One is pre-COVID times. I would say that we had a great combination of Canadians that flew and those who drove, right? For a lot of their, whether they were bringing down their RVs or their household goods, we'd see that. I would say pre-COVID too, we would watch a lot of our Canadian residents that have both residents in Yuma and also back in Canada. They would fly back and forth, including their families would visit. Now I'm going to go pre-COVID, pre-alliances being separated too. So years ago, a lot of our Canadians were all in the same alliance with our current provider. We only have one air carrier today, which is American. We're working on having another air carrier, but they only team up with certain other air carriers. And unfortunately, some of the Canadian-based air carriers are not now in that alliance. So I would say at that time we used to get a lot more because it wasn't so frustrating for them to have to switch their luggage from one plane to the other. It would automatically transfer. So today, post kind of in between, I always say post-COVID because I feel like we're getting through that. I'm always optimistic. But I would say today what we're seeing is some of them are choosing just to buy a home here, a smaller home, not necessarily drive their RV down. They want to fly, but one of the frustrating things that they've expressed to me is that their connection in the Northwest, that they have to take their luggage and then go to the other air carrier. So to them, sometimes it's just easier for them just to drive their car on down. So those are things that I have to take in consideration and look at. But in the past, I've always had a nice combination where some of them would come and drive down, and then they would fly back and forth because they've got to meet some requirements back home, whether it was to check on their home or some of their medical stuff, or just checking on their family members or their family members to check on us. We used to get a very good combination of the both. I do feel that into the future now, again, being optimistic, if I attract the right and land the right air carrier, I'm going to get back into that alliance in which they don't have to worry about switching their luggage from WestJet or Canada Air, and they can get right onto that next air carrier that's going to connect them into Yuma. So very hopeful. I would say that majority of them do like the combination of driving and flying, but in the past, depending on their situation, whether they had an RV that they had a spot here, we would see kind of like a nice Canadian base that would fly in and out. They are my top out of 10 international users. My Canadian residency is about 4 of those 10 top folks. So that's where I get a lot of my international usage, is actually mostly Canadian based.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I hope, Mr. Williamson, that kind of answers your question and gives you an insight on, well, essentially how valuable the Canadian travelers are here to, especially to our region. So next question, we have got Mr. Teodoro Martinez asking, how can we utilize the USMCA as a supply chain between Mexico and USA? Essentially with this new trade agreement with Mexico benefits in a way that the Yuma Airport along in Mexico between Sonora and Baja California would have a better flowing relationship, or any advantages that you've heard? I know everybody talking about the USMCA since it was implemented, and so many changes. So is there anything that you can add as far as what the benefits would be between Sonora, Baja California, and possible expansion with the Yuma International Airport?
I think for us, the biggest thing is the business. What business flows that we need, and what materials are good in which the commodity can be transported. A lot of the times when we look at that, the return on investment, depending on the commodity, is what's going to drive that business. I think the biggest thing is for both entities to understand that we have the ability to handle any aircraft of any size. It's also the offloading capabilities and the trucking, and then getting to it to where we need to do. Again, the commodity, and then also the means, and then also where are we going once we get there, and what's those times. I think that's the biggest thing now as we work through those agreements. It's great because it opens up the doors. It says, hey, you're going to have a less of a barrier to entry into this type of environment, which you guys have most definitely done a great job doing. Now it's about what commodity and advantage that we can take within this region to be able to capitalize on that for those business partners and stakeholders. So I think as we go through the motions and work with business to see what is it that we can do together. The biggest thing is on my end here, we don't have many restrictions when it comes to those freight sizes. I just think the biggest challenges we have is the return on investment utilizing something like an airplane. And I think a lot of folks, once I show them what that cargo operation cost is to do it, then a lot of times they're like, man, between rail and trucking, as long as we have the roads and the ports, I think that our cost benefit analysis is better there. I do think there's some things that you can do when you look beyond just right here. So I always say, what are those global partnerships look like? Because everybody knows the majority of our goods and commodities today comes on the maritime industry. A lot of people don't realize that. And at one time we priced commodities and what the economy looked like by the price of the banana, right? What is the price of the bananas right now? And in that way, it kind of gauged where our economy was and economies of scale. But today, everybody still needs to grasp and understand that integral part of that maritime portion of it, and then also how things are delivered, what's the freight cost inside of those global partnerships? And again, what are those end users needing? And what is that commodity that's going to drive up that opportunity for profitability? So I always say, I think majority of businesses today are looking at exponential increases, but we just have to figure out what we can do together. And I'm here to tell you that I do have land to develop or to be able to be a component in that, and also to look at when you bring people to the table, what can we do together on the collective ideas to utilize those types of agreements that you guys have gotten today.
That's wonderful. And in your presentation, when they say you have somebody that business development that you bring to the table, you have a concept in mind, you have the cost that you can share with the potential users, and really the importance of the partnership for the overall growth. And again, we have the land, we have the space, and we have the availability, which is wonderful. So next question that came in, Miss Gladys, is excuse me. Could you provide further overview or an explanation of the unique situation Yuma International Airport and MCAS sharing a runway?
So the very unique situation is usually an airport of this size, which we handle the smaller regional liners. A lot of the times they're classified in more of a category 3 or category 4 inside of the FAA world, which means a category 4 airport doesn't even need a fence. A category 3 airport requires areas to be secured and a fence that's not as big and as secure as ours. But that runway use is huge, because usually airports of my size, I would say it this way, or our size, would have 1 or 2 runways that we can kind of maintain without breaking the budget and trying to figure out where we can get a lot of discretionary funds to maintain runways that are of the smallest. Our smallest size runway is some regional airports' largest size. So one of the advantages we have is the fact that one of our runways is over 13,000 feet. But I always tell people those 4 runways that are out there are actually owned by the Department of the Navy. So a lot of that regulatory portion of it, we go through, we inspect, we work in conjunction with them to help them maintain them as far as observation. But our codependency is the fact that they actually do all the repairs and maintenance. They're the ones who provide their lighting systems on there. We pay a portion of the electrical portion of it. Other than that, I think that unique situation has really helped us not only bring in potential users and even current users today on the research and development side of those big 747 guys, or those cargo operators that are dropping off. That has given us the door to be open so that the Boeing and the General Electric folks, or the Pratt and Whitneys, want to come down here. The other thing tied into those runways is an air traffic control tower. So for those who are very familiar, most air traffic control towers are either FAA funded or funded by the entity that actually operates the airport. We're very fortunate that tower is a great and one of the best training facilities that the Marine Corps or the Department of the Navy have for air traffic control. It's also a Department of Defense tower, so it's funded through their system as well. So that also helps to kind of alleviate some of that cost burdening, or those cost burdens that most airports of my size have to then limit their opportunity and restrictions, or have restrictions for potential growth. So very, very fortunate on that partnership. That's also why we try to work and keep a very positive relationship and understanding, because they do provide 2 huge assets that make it extremely attractive to future development, which is very large runways, and also an air traffic control tower that's very well maintained and has great personnel in it.
Wonderful. And when you say available runways, I wish people knew how much concrete goes into those things, right?
It is extremely expensive, and not only that, it's the surface checks, the sweeping, the maintaining, the lighting. I mean, it's just so much. And then also the wildlife management control. I mean, there's so much out here that we have to take care of, and then the dust storm. So we don't have ice, but we've got dust. And I always tell folks it's one or the other, but I would much rather handle dust storms than having to de-ice a whole airport or planes.
Right, correct. And even with the testing, that our temperature is actually an asset to people and that need that kind of temperature checks for what exactly that they're testing for. So everybody always complains it's so hot, but in the end, it really benefits, right?
It really does.
Yeah, so James Schuessler, who's the executive director to the Yuma Multiversity, going kind of in conjunction, with the economic drivers that you've that we've discussed. He's asking, what economic drivers do you believe will help grow your business in the next 5 to 10 years?
So for us, what we've always noticed, especially with our potential clients, is their ability to recruit and retain professionals. I think the biggest thing, especially if you can home grow them and then show them. It doesn't matter what portion of within the 60-mile radius they come, because we've got phenomenal up and coming professional and I even say mathematicians that people would be amazed by. I think a lot of the things we have to do is make sure that we can encourage the matriculation of those youth or young adults, and even adults that are re-entering the workplace. I think the biggest thing is making sure that they're qualified and they have a skill or trade in which can be attractive, kind of more to that manufacturing. On our aerospace side, a lot of things they can train, but they have to have that undergraduate or postgraduate degree, and then also want to be here. I mean, everybody always questions like, why this region? Like, and I'm like, man, there's nothing better than being not just in Yuma, but let's look at the 60 miles, all of the opportunity and growth, and including that partnership. I tell them being this close and relative to Mexico is phenomenal. The professionals that come from there, the businesses that are there, folks don't know all about that. And I think that once they see it, it makes it attractive. So on the academia side, I think we really do need to kind of track industries overall, not just aerospace or manufacturing, but what is it that our economy is looking for? For a hot topic, one time it was aerospace and defense, and then it went into e-commerce, and then it went into, well, what are we doing today? And so today we've got a full spectrum of opportunity. It's just what's ideal that's sustainable, but also profitable. And I think for us, the biggest thing is when we attract those headquarters to relocate, can we give them the level of professionals that we say we can produce, that we know? So some may have to leave and then come back, but how do you tap back into that? I think that's going to be your biggest challenge, and that's what we're challenged with. For this airport in particular, I think the biggest thing is for us to constantly have those professionals that are now going to start to be employed in the city and county, that I have to make sure that we keep them in the loop, that we can look at that development. We can make sure that when I say I can build that large hangar, that I'm going to get those utilities to that facility. I think those are things that we're going to look at into the future. But on the academia side, I think it's matriculation, then knowing that professional might have to go away for a while, or can we partner up with all of the different entities that are on this call or in partnership, be able to get them that on-hands training, and then how do we make it attractive for them to come back when we have a big client that we're going to land? And I think that that's all by industry trending, and then also that profitability is shooting out. And for everybody, it's no longer shooting out 20 years. We're looking at that 50-year growth cycle in what a company can do, and then also making sure that they're going to stay here for 50 years. I mean, truth be known, that's what I hope for, is when I bring a company to the table, I don't want short-term gain. I want long-term gain, sustainability, and profitability for that company. And if I know that I can maybe capitalize for a year or two, I just say, it's better for them to be able to go into a market that's all right with that turnover, because I want that longevity for our community and for our economic stability into the future.
Wonderful. And as a region, we appreciate that, Ms. Gladys, because it's, again, just a long-term vision for the mega region just to continue to grow. And we appreciate the fact that you are kind of, that advocate in order for that to happen. So we don't have any more Q&As that have, or Qs that have come in. We're at about our 45-minute mark. So I want to give our sincerest thanks again, Gladys. If anybody would like a copy of the presentation, please email myself. My first email, is bgeorge@gypa.org. And I'll be sure to CC Gladys on that email if you have any further questions, or if you have anybody obviously looking to possibly relocate or just discover a little bit many more of the assets that Yuma International could possibly help you grow in your business. By all means, we are here for you, here for our community, and here for our region. So thank you everybody that joined us today, and then join us next week, same day, same time, 11 o'clock on Wednesdays, to learn about Aeropuerto Internacional de Mexicali. So we're going to have Licenciado Víctor Manuel García Bertín to talk to you about the aviation down on the south of the border. So again, trains, planes, and automobiles, anything that moves our region. If we can serve you in any way, our contact information is on the screen. Please find us on Facebook, social media. And if you have any topic suggestions for a webinar, or if you just like to participate, by all means, let us know as well. Anything we can do to just bring our regional assets to the table and out there for everybody to view, that is what we're here for. So again, everybody, thank you. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe and be well. Thank you so much. And thank you again, Gladys.
Yeah, keep up the good work. Thank you for having me, and have a great day, everyone.